Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks. And finally, Wargaming have done something to the Panzer VII. Now, personally, I don't think the vehicle actually really needed a buff, but a lot of players seem to be struggling with the tank, and so Wargaming gave it a little bit of love. What exactly did Wargaming do to the Panzer VII in the last couple of patches? Well, they've increased the penetration of the standard rounds of this vehicle up to 276. Previously, the penetration of the tank was 258. So that kind of goes to one of the highest base penetrations on any of the non-tier 10 tank destroyers, which means you can get away with firing a lot more regular rounds on this tank. But if you do want to spam gold, then they also buffed the premium penetration to 325, whereas previously I think it was more like about 315. And so really good news for just having the firepower to go through whatever you need to in front of the Panzer VII. In addition to this, the vehicle has got better aim time now at 2.3 seconds, whereas previously it was 2.6. And also they improved the accuracy from 0.37, which is kind of like middle of the road accuracy for a heavy tank. It's not bad, but it wasn't good, down to 0.33, which is actually really nice for this tank. It kind of turns it into this more of a sniper. And so the Panzer VII, now it can kind of not only brawl up close and personal with its awesome armor, it can also now be able to snipe at decent distances. However, it doesn't look like my accuracy was quite good enough to be able to hit the top bar on the E100. So unfortunately, I'm dipping into the gold rounds to try and compensate for my lack of RNG there, to hopefully just bludgeon my way through the front of the E100. But unfortunately, the E100 doesn't want to make themselves seen anymore, so I'm looking for this XM66F. So it wasn't just the firepower that they improved on the Panzer VII, they also decided to improve the engine power. Now this thing has a 1,350 horsepower engine, which actually gives it not the worst power to weight ratio. It's over 11 now. And so that means that this thing is definitely a lot more agile than your other German heavies, like the Maus or the E100. Unfortunately, even the buffed gold pen on this tank of 325 isn't reliable enough to go through the E100's turret. I guess he was using a slight little bit of his gun depression there as he's wedging, I guess, his right-hand track up on the rubble that's right in front of me. So, the Panzer VII, when I did my masterclass on this video, I felt like it's a tank that it's rather unintelligent. It's the kind of tank where you've just got to take chances, and I think the harder that you try in this vehicle, the worse it kind of gets. And I felt like with this tank when I played it, that if I just had a little bit of fun and I took those risks, quite often the armor, if you try to overthink it, it doesn't work. Because it's got weak points on the side, a lot of people don't realize, but this kind of like triangle that you see in here, right in this area, is awful on the vehicle. Its mantlet has issues as well, and its lower plate is very, very good, unless it's dealing with tier 10 or tier 9 gold rounds. But yeah, so the harder that you really try in the Panzer VII, I feel like the worse that it gets. It's really not too complicated of a tank. Just try and bait your opponents by sticking your front plate round the corner. Don't expose that side to knowledgeable vehicles. And you see the VK's going for the wrong place, trying to hit the lower plate on the Panzer VII from the front. Even with gold, that VK stands no chance. Even if the E100 on the enemy team, who's using the 128mm, doesn't stand a chance as well. And while the buffed 128mm, although it's been buffed for many years, and oh, what is this RNG? I just keep bouncing gold rounds off this E100 turret. Even though the 128mm, or is it 124, on the E100 has been buffed, it's still got 530 alpha compared to the 560 that I believe that we are packing on this gun. The only thing that really this tank lacks now is the damage per minute, which is one of the reasons why you see that I've elected to not use a gun rammer on this vehicle. However, on a map like this, I probably could have just dropped the turbo and taken a gun rammer instead. And that's the last gold round that we're going to bounce. So you can see that I got so frustrated. This is my free-to-play account. Credits are hard to come by on this account because I don't really feel like I just want to grind premium tanks all day and I want to try and progress and unlock as many tier 10s. So instead of just spamming gold, why don't we aim with regular rounds and miss? And oh dear, you can see that they're hitting the weak point on top of the Panzer VII, giving me googly eyes there as well. So I've got to make sure I try and use a bit of my gun depression to hide that. Okay, alright. Definitely not the best so far, but here we go. The gold has been put away. We're going to use this fabulous 276mm of standard pen, and considering how we're a tall tank, we can fairly easily hit the bar on the top of the E100 now, especially at this close range. And so we put 2 out of 2 in, and things are starting to look up. And I think I stopped at this moment to kind of like go to Twitch. Yeah, I should just not spam gold on this account and actually bother to aim at weak points. When this kind of a scenario, that bar on the top of the 100 is just so obvious. And whoa, looks like they got hit in the side by the heavies and hit in the front by us. And we managed to put 3 regular rounds in a row, finishing off the tier 10 German heavy. And now all that's left is these juicy tier 8s to be able to pick apart one by one by one by one. And this is just what the Panzer VII is really good for. It's just this absolute behemoth that can sit in front of everything. And if you don't need the damage per minute because you're not being pressured too quickly, and you've got a nice long-winded engagement where you can take 6 minutes to destroy whatever's in front of you, now, even without just spamming gold, you have more than enough pen to reliably go through pretty much everything in front of you. If I was still dealing with like a mouse cheeks, I'd probably still fire gold. And even against the E100 there, I'd probably still better if I was firing gold rounds at the weak point. The 315 is still better than the 276 against a flat surface. Although the extra 3 degrees of normalization you'll get with the AP kind of balances out the difference a little bit. Alright, so we're up to 4 kills. Luckily, the game is still fairly close, so it looks like there's going to be a lot left for us to do. And usually there's a load of snipers that are going to be sitting up in that little nest, but I'm also worried about the STR V103B towards our west. And while this thing's armor is good, it's only really good at the front. As soon as your opponents have the side or the rear, yeah, it's not really going to work out for you. And there's the T103, who's up in that little nest, waiting for us to leave the town. So it's interesting because we've won the middle of the map, but the enemies still have a strong presence along the flanks. And whenever that happens, it can be really hard on Ghost Town to be able to push out against the flanks, especially when you're in a lumbering, cumbersome heavy tank like the Panzer VII. That again, it's really good when you're fighting down an alleyway and you've got your opponents in front of you, but as soon as you're getting engaged from multiple angles, yeah, this armor really isn't going to hold up. I'm keeping an eye out on my left, expecting that the T103 is going to be able to get us, but considering that T103 got spotted, I'm going to swing towards the left, and then I'm going to go for the T103 here. We're not sure whether that one hits. They unfortunately did hit us right in the side, and I think that the T103 is the only tank that's probably still up there. So I can drive out in front of that sniper nest, and instead turn my attention to the Gonkowice, this new tier 9 Polish tank destroyer. I tell the UDES 15-16 that I'm going to help them. I really wish they'd push up and maybe try and get some vision, but luckily the Gonkowice takes a swing at us. We penetrate a round. Now we're going to be loading a gold round, because we could see that we only had yellow chance to pen most of the Gonkowice's armor, and hitting the lower plate with .33 accuracy isn't exactly the most reliable thing. Luckily, we ricochet a shell, we don't take a second shell from them, and we finish off the vehicle as it just re-stealthed. And then go back to loading those regular rounds. Wow, up to 6,000 damage, 5 kills, 4,000 damage blocked. This is a game for any heavy tank, let alone the Panzer VII on the free-to-play account. Although we've still got some work to do. My team's up by a couple of kills and about 1,500 hit points. It's all still to play for, and it can quickly change, especially with the enemy still holding both flanks. Although we've advanced closer towards them on each of the flanks, so the pressure is on the enemy. But quickly it switches with the UDES 15-16 finishing off the 1390, and also finishing off, what was that, some kind of an LT on the other flank as well, the LT-432 I believe. And so now it's looking even, at least on kills, but we're still substantially up on hit points by 2,000. Looks like the enemy's lost some hit points to be able to finish off those last 2 tanks. So I'm kind of a little bit worried about the Borask being up here in the T103. I don't get spotted, which suggests to me that the T103 isn't poking around the corner. But with the WT finishing off the Borask, at least I don't have to worry about the French autoloader from above. Although, even with gold rounds, the Borask is going to have a very hard time to go through a Panzer VII from most angles. And oh dear, I overexpose, I get caught by the M60, hit by the AAT-60, but luckily I spot the Object 590. Looks like the UDES put in a big old hit for 467, which allows me to finish them off. And that secures our Top Gun medal here, and still with 4 vehicles left on the enemy team. Again, it's all to play for. We're up by a frag, up by still a couple of thousand hit points. I'm just hoping my team can manage to get rid of the UDES, and I'm going to try and take swings at the T103. Have a little bit of a swing of the mouse there, annoyed that I didn't manage to finish off the T103, because if we can get rid of them, then we might be able to progress the battle elsewhere. And I'm not sure if I saw the ricochet from the T103 there, possibly, but oh. Oh, that's a lovely blind fire. That helps us out no end. We've destroyed just shy of half of the enemy team, but wow, the AAT-60 with that fabulous 280 gold pen, I believe, on the heat rounds. Is that just normal now for tier 8 tanks to have 280 gold pen? Manages to go right through the front of the Panzer VII, and I'm now a one-shot for the UDES V high rolls. The M60 and the AT-60 are going to be able to finish me off in a couple of shots. So I decide, all right, I don't want to keep poking. The M60 has pretty much the whole of that avenue lit up, and if I go out, then they're behind the rock. I'm never going to be able to see them, and if I do manage to catch them, or the UDES manages to catch them, they're just going to be able to pull back around the corner. And they were last spotted on full health. So the M60 is the strong point of the enemy team. We've got to try and handle the weak point. And I don't have all the field mods on this vehicle yet, so I'm not sure if I even have the extra view range that comes with it. So as you can see on the mini-map, we're not even packing full view range here, and we definitely don't have our slot bonus to improve the extra view range on the vents. Nevertheless, with our team finishing off the UDES and sub 4 minutes left on this game, it's time to make some plays, and hopefully we can finish off the AAT-60, but we don't. But this is okay, because we've got the AAT-60 right in front of us, and that means we can drive at the M60. But everybody knows, or at least you should know, that the M60 has fabulous heat rounds, 350 heat. And you'll see that I'm using the buildings to be able to avoid the M60. If the heat rounds come in, they'll get absorbed by anything rather than go through it. Luckily, I see that the UDES makes a play, makes a push. That's great because it takes the pressure off me, and hopefully UDES can hold that position. While he does, I'm going to go after the AAT-60, who I presumed would be going around the... I'll go around the corner on the right. They're going to be up there, trying to get some shots on the UDES, possibly trying to poke for the Ho-Ri 2. I'll go forwards, finish off the tier 8, and then we get to farm the M60. But oh my lord, the AAT-60 is actually behind us right now. I'm going to go forwards. I'm going to tank a shot to the rear of my vehicle. Unfortunately, UDES gets finished off by the M60, and now things are starting to look really ugly. With the M60 coming around the corner, luckily they tried to shoot the tracks of this thickly armored tank. And just reversing. Come on, Panzer Armor, hold on. And it does. It gets me through with 5,800 damage blocked. And booyah, that's our 9th kill of the game in the recently buffed Panzer VII with 7,200 damage that we saw. Oh, boys and girls, this was a meaty game for any tank on any account, let alone for the Panzer VII on the free-to-play. This thing now... it's really very good. I thought it was solid before. I didn't think it needed a buff, but just let's take a look to see how it's been performing on the statistics compared to all of the other heavy tanks. So, any more games in the Panzer VII? Is it a popular vehicle now? It's kind of in the middle of the pack, 75,000 games in the last 30 days. What about its raw win rate? Wow, it now has the best win rate of any heavy tank, nearly 1% more than the T110E5. And what's crazy about that is that it doesn't have the best win ratio. Better players are still playing the T110E5, which means that when we look at win ratio difference, the Panzer VII is the new best heavy in World of Tanks, at least with regards to statistics. It has the best win rate difference, it has the best raw win rate, and it is also doing the most damage per game. Now, of course, a lot of this might be because a lot of the people who never played this vehicle previously are starting to play it now and try-harding their pants off to be able to get their 3rd mark of excellence, for example. But if that was the case, we'd see the most sweaty players playing the Panzer VII, which definitely isn't the case. It's in 6th place with regards to raw player win ratio playing the Panzer VII, which shows that considering the win rate difference and the raw win ratio, this thing is the new best heavy. So, you heard it here. Dust your Panzer VII off, give it a go, and you tell me whether it deserves the accolade of the new best tech tree heavy tank in World of Tanks. So an ace tanker here for the Panzer VII for our 1,503 base experience. This was actually 8,200 damage with the blind fires on the T103. We get a Radley Walters medal for the 9 kills, a high caliber for that 8,200 damage, and a steel wall medal because this thing is an absolute tank and blocked enough to destroy it a couple times over at 5,880. And while we did fire a few gold rounds, we make 84,000 credits profit when we stopped firing and bouncing the gold and just aimed a little better with the newly buffed penetration on the regular rounds. So there you have it, ladies and gents, the Panzer VII in a great place. So, really hope you enjoyed the video today. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know in the comments what you think about the Panzer VII now having the best statistics in the European server in the last 30 days. And if you're watching this video as it's released on Sunday, it's time for the World of Tanks Tech Tree Showcase. So come along right now as I'm going to play through to the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen and all of the German light tanks to let you know whether the new top of the tree tank is worth picking up this month. So, really looking forward to seeing you all live right now. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.